Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tearing right into a massive, highly structured master prompt that actually attempts to extract the exact blueprint for billionaire-level wealth. I was totally fascinated by how it completely bypasses the usual cliches and zeroes in strictly on leverage, systems, and smart decision-making. So to really wrap our heads around how this works in the real world, we're going to treat wealth creation a lot like building a skyscraper, following a very precise architectural plan.
Think about this for a second. What if simply working harder is actually the very thing holding you back? I know, it sounds crazy. We've all been sold this idea that grinding away day and night is the ultimate key to financial freedom. But the surprising truth that emerges from this material is that if you are just trading your time for money, maxing out your hours will never, ever get you to extraordinary wealth. You literally run out of time.
To get there, we're going to follow a four-part blueprint. 1, the foundation. 2, the multipliers. 3, the engines. And 4, the long game. All right, kicking things off with part 1, the foundation, mindset, and effort.
Look, there is a massive difference between hard work and smart work. Hard work relies entirely on you. You put in an hour, you get paid for an hour. It's kind of like trying to empty a giant swimming pool using nothing but a bucket. You're going to be exhausted, and it's going to take forever. Smart work, on the other hand, that's taking the time to step back and build a pump. It's all about utilizing leverage, automation, and systems. You're fiercely protecting your time so you can focus exclusively on high-value activities. You aren't just doing the work anymore, you're designing the machine that does the work for you.
And this shifts us right into the billionaire mindset. People often think the ultra-wealthy just avoid risk altogether. That is a complete myth. They don't avoid it. They obsessively manage it while constantly hunting for an unfair advantage. It requires flipping your perspective so you can instantly spot massive opportunities where everyone else just sees a frustrating obstacle. They apply long-term thinking to literally every move they make. They aren't in it for a quick, flashy win. They're laying bricks for a fortress meant to last generations.
Which brings us to part 2, the multipliers, leverage, and skills.
This is where things get really fun. Leverage. It is the absolute true separator of the wealthy, and it's the magic word that finally decouples your time from your earning potential. Now, back in the day, leverage mostly meant borrowing tons of capital or hiring huge teams of people. But today, the most powerful forms of leverage are technology, AI, software, and media. Think about it. A piece of code or an AI system works for you 24/7. It never needs a coffee break, it doesn't sleep, and it never asks for a raise. It just infinitely replicates your output.
But here's the catch. You can't just buy leverage. You actually have to know how to wield it like an owner. That means you absolutely need to develop what are called high-income skills. Before you scale a massive business, you literally have to scale yourself. We're talking about mastering the psychology of sales and marketing, becoming fluent in prompting AI tools, or learning high-stakes negotiation. These skills are the mandatory prerequisites. Without them, even the most powerful leverage in the world is just going to fall completely flat. Moving right along to part 3, the engines, models, and frameworks. So you've got the skills, you've got the leverage. Now you need a vehicle. When you find a massive problem and solve it with the right highly scalable business model, things like software as a service, AI businesses, or digital products, everything changes. Why? Because once the core product is built, your cost to deliver it to the next customer or the next million customers is practically zero. You aren't linearly jacking up your costs as your revenue grows. This is exactly the type of engine that generates exponential wealth. But to build one of these engines, you absolutely have to rewire how you solve problems, starting with first principles thinking. Instead of just lazily copying what everyone else in your industry is doing, you break a complex problem all the way down to its most basic, fundamental truths. So instead of asking, how do we make a slightly better taxi, first principles thinking asks, how do we simply get a person from point A to B? From there, you build up a completely original solution. This is literally how industry-disrupting unicorns are born. Then, you've got to obsess over opportunity cost. This is a total game changer. Basically, every single time you say yes to a task, you are inherently saying no to something else. Understanding opportunity cost forces you to ask, why does this matter for my time? If you burn 2 hours doing a low-value administrative chore, you aren't just losing 2 hours on the clock, you are actively throwing away the high-level strategic growth you could have accomplished in that exact same window. And that feeds right into second-order thinking, which forces us to look way past immediate gratification. Let's say you make a business decision. The immediate first-order consequence might look awesome. Say, cutting customer support saves you a bunch of money today. Boom, more profit. But the second-order consequence, you completely alienate your best customers and destroy your brand's reputation over the next 12 months. Second-order thinking prevents those catastrophic long-term errors.
All right, wrapping up our blueprint with part 4, the long game, psychology and roadmaps.
Because let's be real, building wealth isn't just a mechanical spreadsheet exercise. It is a massive psychological game. It is deeply anchored in delayed gratification. Can you actually sacrifice a luxury today to fund a system that'll pay you out for the next 10 years? It requires total emotional control, the humility to realize you have to continuously learn, and insane resilience. You are going to face setbacks, no doubt about it. How stable you stay during those chaotic moments will entirely dictate your long-term success.
But, we got to talk about the dark side too. What happens when that discipline breaks down? Well, this sequence right here outlines the absolute quickest path to failure. It almost always starts with shiny object syndrome, losing focus on your main engine to go chase some random new trend. Then comes lifestyle inflation, blowing your new cash flow on liabilities instead of assets. And finally, excessive debt, over-leveraging yourself until the whole thing collapses. Dodging these 3 traps is honestly just as important as building the business in the first place.
Now, obviously, none of this happens overnight. We're looking at a very realistic 5-year roadmap here. In the first 90 days, look, you aren't a billionaire, you're just in the trenches mastering tools like AI and evaluating ideas. By year 1, you're building systems but probably still relying on your active income to survive. By year 3, you've shifted heavily into delegating and scaling operations. And by year 5, you finally transition from a beginner, trading time for money, to a true owner running a scalable business and a solid investment portfolio.
And as you progress through those 5 years, you aren't just relying on one single paycheck. A disciplined entrepreneur is systematically stacking distinct income streams. You start with active income, you funnel that into business income, and then you direct those business profits into investment income, royalties, and digital assets. This extreme diversification is the secret to absolute financial resilience, because if one stream temporarily dries up, the others keep the whole fortress standing strong.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to hit you with a direct challenge drawn straight from these productivity frameworks. You know now that time is your absolute most precious asset, and that smart work means ruthlessly cutting out the noise. So if you are truly serious about building lasting wealth, what low-value task are you going to eliminate today? Seriously, think about it, apply it, and start building your blueprint. Thanks for joining me.